You're listening to The Ranch Sit Down with your host, Shayne Hollinger.
The man himself, Cody Canada, hanging out with us.
Hello.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Every time I hear what year it is, it makes me feel a little
Doesn't
bit
it?
more dusty. Yeah.
Yeah, I played a song the other day from like when they used to do the live at Larry Joe CDs.
Yeah.
And it was like an old rusty weird tune. I was like, I think that was from 13. Oh my God, that was a long time ago.
So I played. I
I
was.
think you
asked,
guys were on one of those CDs
We
too.
were.
Yeah.
And I was asked to, when I was 17 years old, I auditioned for a band called The Great Divide, and I was in their band for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I played the sixth Larry Joe Taylor
Did you really?
and in Possum Kingdom, and had big plans on hanging out and partying, and then I let it slip that the next night was my prom. And the Great Divide guys like, we have to get you there. I was like, guys, you don't realize. I mean, I want out of school as fast as I could.
Right.
They're like, no, we're taking you to the prom. So they drove me up to the prom in their dusty old Suburban, and they dressed me and everything. It's
Oh,
a good memory.
wow.
But
That's funny.
yeah, the sixth annual Possum Kingdom, I had to sing all the songs McClure didn't want to sing, like Brown Eyed Girl and Sweet
Right.
Alabama.
So it was all you. So you guys have been busy working on some old stuff, man. That new Soul Gravy 2022 version is so freaking good.
I'm glad you like it. I was really
It's
nervous.
really cool. Like the latest single y'all released is Again with Randy. It's a good version of that, man. It really is.
So when we cut it, and long story short, or probably longer, but when we cut it, we were on the road 250 something days. We played 230 something shows that year.
Wow.
And this was no kids. This was, Hail Mary, let's see what we can do. And man, we were beating ourselves to death. And we went into the studio because the label said, "Are you ready?" He's like, "Well, we have songs, but we need to practice."
Right.
And we didn't. And we went to the studio and realized that we had a fast turnaround, so we used what was called a pod. Well, the pod sounds like, it sounds digital. So McClure wanted to get in and out and get as many songs done as we could before we had to go back on the road.
Right.
That's what it was. We'd set up, break down, hit the road again. And over in Belton, Texas. And if we used a pod, we didn't have to load in gear. I did not like that idea.
Right.
But I lost. And there's a song in there called Hammer Down, and there's a split little second shaved off the beginning of it, and it bugged me so bad. I said, well, one day I'll recut it. And so the band split, and I was still going to recut it. And then I called Universal and said, hey, you put out a box of weed, the box set. And I want to sell some on the road, and they told me I had to pay $35 a piece for my own material.
What?
And then that's when they started doing what they did to Taylor Swift.
Right.
And then Taylor Swift re-recorded her stuff. And I thought, if they're not going after her, I'm just going to slide through.
Right,
the door.
right.
And I really thought, in the world, our world of everybody hates everything, online, I thought I was going to get my butt kicked.
Right.
But man, if people are talking anything bad about it, I haven't heard it. So
We haven't either. That's what's
that's
cool.
great. And I think it also made my crowds get bigger because I took a year off of Ragweed songs in the beginning and it hurt my crowd. So that's my fault. I had McClure and Roger Klein both told me don't stop playing the songs, and I did.
Well, you had mixed feelings about that. I mean,
I did,
I
man.
completely
I
understand
had my
that.
feelings there.
That was a rough time. It
Yeah,
really
I was trying to save the band from breaking up, but it was inevitable. So I was like,
Yeah.
man, if I have to sing these songs, I'm gonna cry like a big baby.
Right.
But then one day I realized they're my tunes. I was in California. I was in California, and this hippie Lori is what we call her because she's every bit a hippie Lori. And I was out there with bowl and acoustic, and she said, "Play this song." I said, well, I don't know if I remember it. And she goes, "It's not the band that we miss; it's your songs." It's like, wow.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. So I come home and told the band at the time, we got to add everything back. And those two guys that were in the band said, we don't want to do that. It's like, well, see you guys.
Right.
I'm not going to fire anybody, but if you don't want to do these, and I do, then. So then we chopped it down to a 3-piece, and now it's happier than ever.
Man, I don't know what it is though, but you as a 3-piece always seems the best.
I
There's
don't.
something about it's, and no offense to anybody
Yeah,
else.
I was about to say the same thing.
You are a freaking great guitar player,
thanks.
and that's what we need. We need Cody Canada on the guitar as the rock star.
Well, this is no offense to Ragweed, but it was always a three-piece band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grady played,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more of kind of filling in the gaps.
Right, right.
And now, you know, I mean, I learned how to play by myself anyway. So, and I learned from Hendrix, and he was always chords and lead at the same time. And then Stevie Ray crept in, and I don't know. I'll never go back to anything else. My kids get up and jam with me, but that's about as far as it goes.
Well, yeah.
They get up and play certain tunes, but
You got some talented kids, by
They're
the
pretty
way,
talented,
man.
from their
Holy
mom.
cow.
their mother's side.
I love following you guys on social media and seeing like your love for what they're doing, and they're really talented. They're way better than you, honestly. Let's be honest.
Promise you that. Dirks was a better guitar player at 11, and he's 17 now. But it blows me away. You know, I try to get Willie will play anything.
Mm-hmm.
He'll learn any song. And Dirks is a lot. It's crazy how you look at one of the kids and you're like, God, that kid's so much like me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do something else like, well, that's got our mom. But Dirks is bullheaded like his mom. And when it comes to music, he's overconfident like me. He's like, well, I'm going to put it off. If I practice it too much, I'm going to screw it up.
Right.
And it's like, day of show, yeah, I know it. And then he'll blow it for a minute. And then he'll like, okay, I got it.
And he figures it
I
out.
mean, that's exactly, fake it till you make it. That's what I
Right.
did for years, you know. But he, they're such good, they're sweet people. You know, I would
That's
say
good.
that if they weren't my kids. You know, they're kind. And Dirks is also, Willie, like I said, will do anything. Dirks is also me when I was younger. Like, I listened to harder music because I thought it made me look harder.
Right, yeah.
So Dirks is really into like metalcore stuff, and a lot of it I don't even want to say it to him. It's like I can't understand what he's saying because that makes me look like an old fart. You
Right.
know?
You
But,
kids and your rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I like it until he starts screaming at me. But yeah, they're doing good. They did some stuff with Blue October. They did a record with them. Going back in and sorry, I moved out of here. They're going back in. I think in a couple months to do another one.
That's awesome, man.
And they just shaved it down to a 4-piece, to a 5-piece since the beginning. And they're my merch guy is their other guitar player,
Oh, wow.
and he's about to turn 21, and the music is getting a little heavier than what he wants. So last week he said, "All peace and love, but I'm going on the road with the departed for good."
That's awesome. Like, I can't understand what you're screaming at me. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, Elisha, the girl singer, that's Dirk's girlfriend. Conflict of interest there. And he, you know, when she sings, she's very crisp, but there is parts where there is that growly, low scream, and that's Dirk's.
You feel that coming.
But it's good, man. It's really good.
I'm glad to see that. Like, you can see the love for them, man, when you're just sitting here talking about them. That's
I
fantastic.
love them. That's what I always want. I bought my house 20 years ago because I saw one room upstairs. And I'm like, this is the room that I want my kids to play music in.
Oh, wow.
And now it's our little studio
That's awesome.
room.
So for you, are we going to go back and do some more of these albums? Is that your plan to do all of them, or what are we?
You know, in the beginning, I wanted to do that, but I wanted to start with Soul Gravy because it wasn't done right.
I remember you saying that you didn't feel like it was done right.
It wasn't done right.
You were
It
like
was
rushed.
It was
yeah.
very rushed. And with this one, you know, we built the studio in New Braunfels during 2020. And when we recorded it, it was, you know, it was 10 minutes from the house for everybody in New Braunfels.
Right.
And then Mace from Co's band came down and played. And other, like, Randy came into that studio and Ray came into that studio. And so it was just really like a home style feeling. So, man, it took us 2.5 weeks because we knew the songs.
Right.
But it was like, come into a song, and somebody's like, hey, you want to go to the bar and get a beer? Yeah, let's go. You know, and it was just taking
Right.
our sweet time. I really don't want to touch Garage. That was the first record that we did with Ragweed that was like, this is the record that I wanted to do, because we did it like Guns N' Roses. We layered guitars and layered vocals, so it sounded bigger than
It did.
a 4-piece band.
It sounded like a 15-piece band up there. Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 guitars.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I recut an old tune that I'm still hanging on to, not telling everybody until it comes out, because I got a special guest on it. But we recorded an old song that we only recorded live, never put it on a record, and 3 or 4 new ones. And a cover record that BJ Barham has really insisted that I do, because after he did his, I told him I've always wanted to do that.
Like a 90s country album?
No, mine's going to be pretty sporadic with unknown. Like I want to do stuff that people don't really know. I feel like that's
Sepultura and stuff like that.
yeah. Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
And we already got a Tull song that we're talking about doing. And of course, the Grateful Dead. Very funny. We I wanted to do Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Robert Earl. And I told my drummer, Shades of Grey. So he's a badass and everything he does, and he went in there and cut it without a band. And I got to listening to it, and it's like, this is a really different approach on this song. He goes, I'm playing it just like the record. It's like, what record are you listening to? And he told me, I was like, that's Touch of Grey by the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Shades of Grey. So now we're going to do a Grateful Dead song.
All right, well that works.
It's already there.
He's already got the drums done,
Yeah,
right?
That's the hard part. But and I don't know, put out a record, maybe not. Just singles. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Man, it's so different now.
It is.
I know. It's like people aren't actually buying albums anymore.
No, I mean, I have a closet full of CDs that, I'm keeping them just for nostalgic reasons.
My wife was nice enough to let me. We have an extra bedroom in the house, and there's an entire wall of CDs, and it's just like, but I can go back and pick those out and rip them into the computer and play them on the radio station. Yeah. Like, oh, remember that old Robert Earl Keen song, and I want to go grab it, But people just don't buy anymore.
They don't.
It's the weirdest. It's a hard time for you guys, especially, which means you just got to tour more to actually pay the bills.
We do, and but also there's two sides to it. Making a record. Some people just go in and do it. I have to make sure everything matches.
Yeah.
Like it makes sure the flow goes. You don't want to put one song on there that sticks out like a sore thumb. It doesn't match the feel. So there's always a song that doesn't get as much love because somebody's like, well, this feels like a single. And right when you say that song's going to get more pampered than any other song.
Yeah.
But if you just do single to single, then you treat every song the same. But I'm from the old school where I want to pick up a CD and see who wrote what, who played what.
Right.
And now, one of my favorite things back in the Ragweed days was we would make a record and burn about 10 of them on the bus and give them to people like, don't say a word.
Right.
And it made us feel cool. It made them feel cool. It was like, here's the new stuff.
It was special.
Play it for people. Don't copy it because we know if we're going to know if you do it. But now it's just like, you send it with your phone. It's like, well, that was boring.
Yeah, like, all right, I texted it to you.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it also makes it easier to record music with phones because our last record is this band. There was a part that really called for a wacky, I said wacky, God, a wacky banjo. Danny Barnes up in Seattle, the guy plays banjo like Hendrix. And so I sent him the song. And I said, I think a banjo would be cool in here. And he sent me 3 versions back on my phone. Just that simple. That was the first time I realized, like, this is a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's a little less personal, but, and also I didn't have to fly Danny Barnes from Seattle to Texas.
Book studio time and do all that, yeah.
So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just the whole landscape has changed. It's so crazy. Now watching, I think back, I see people on Instagram, showing they have a gold single or a platinum single. It's like, man, we would add a couple of those back in the day.
The numbers are way lesser than they used to be, is what I'm seeing. Yeah, you don't have to sell very many at all, and that's kind of sad. But
or a million streams.
Yeah, streams.
It's I'll take what I can get. It's weird to adapt to it, and it also makes me feel ancient again,
right?
Which I don't have a problem with getting older, but I don't like change when it comes to my everyday music making business.
Where you're putting your heart and soul into it. That's the thing, and that's why you want to create an album and can create a flow where it's like it's a book. It's start to finish.
It's a story of that period of your life.
Yeah.
I think the biggest loss is artwork. That's the biggest loss.
I know.
That was my favorite because I would I'd pull somebody from high school that used to be badass in drawing in art class, and I was like, hey, you still doing this? can you do this record for me? You know, and that person would get a moment to shine. And
You know, people used to win Grammys for that.
yeah.
You know?
And now, I don't know, anymore, you know, you have to have something, you know, for certain radio stations, you have to have something that they can look at, and it's shrunk.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
like the Randy and I song coming out, it's just a telephone dial.
Yeah.
You know, just make it as simple as you can instead of like back in the day with the original garage record, you know, there were little pieces, little messages behind the motor, and flip it over.
Well, you remember back in the day, like you'd release an album, like, well, the album's ready, we're just waiting on the artwork.
Yeah.
Because that's where everything was, because that you were literally judging a book by its cover, it seemed like. You
Oh,
know,
you
like,
walk into
like that's the one I want. There's something behind that.
Walk into Hastings and see it
Yeah.
from the front door, you know, you wanted it to stick out.
Exactly.
Whether they like that music or not.
Yeah, just that picture could draw them in.
Yep.
So just a couple of old farts hanging out backstage at LJT.
Back in my day,
Back in my day, one of these damn kids.
we used to watch movies in theaters.
Cody Canada, man, it looks like you're in a really good place in your life.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see that, man.
Really am. I can't lie. I've got so many people asking in bars and festivals like,
Oh, dear.
would you do this again? It's like, man, no. Why would I do that?
No, I've done that.
Yeah,
That's happened.
Let me do this, you know.
Right.
And a name drop time, but you know, I did a gig with Fogarty.
That's
07,
yeah.
and God, he was so sweet. And then I did a gig with him like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Remembered everything, remembered the songs. He'd sit in the green room and picked. And he said, don't ever let them make you do something you don't want to do. He goes, these are your tunes. You're playing the guitar. He goes, it's very apparent that we live the same sort of
Right,
lifestyle.
gone through the same
He said,
thing.
Don't let them bend you. Do your thing. Like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I already knew that.
How
but
can
hey,
you deny that, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a stamp of approval
Yeah,
for
it
sure on what
really-
you're doing.
It really is. You know, that was one of those days I wanted to just post it to the world. But
Right.
I'm going to hang on to this. I'll talk about it. But you know, I am. It was a good spot. The kids are happy, and the wife's happy, and the band is happier than we've ever been, and making music at a very slow pace. Which is,
But your pace.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, like last night we were supposed to finish our new stuff in the studio. You're like, oh, let's just hit it next week.
Yeah. We can do it.
Yeah, we don't have anybody to answer to. But
No
ourselves.
deadline. Yeah.
No quota.
Right. You don't have to rush through an album again.
Yeah, it feels good, and thanks for noticing, because I feel like this is where I need to be.
We notice, man. We do. Cody Canada, thank you, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you hanging out with us as always.
This has been The Ranch Sit Down. To hear more, check out our free app. Just search for 95.9 The Ranch or find it wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. New episodes every week.